Welcome back to Rogue One 6. Today we are talking about an interesting product, something that we don't normally cover on our channel, and it's going to be an Indiana Jones piece, which is interesting. We have Tom on for hopefully several different product spotlights, and he was kind enough to kind of give us a sneak peek at something that they're coming out with. So this will go live when that comes out. I think it's very soon. So you said, Tom, that the actual piece will be next week, right?
Correct. Yeah. By the time folks are seeing this, they should be able to go to regalrobot.com and get at least, the basic overview of the products,
An
the
idea.
pricing for the two different editions and all the details. And then the product pages go live on 11/12. So November 12th.
Okay.
And one of them, we'll go into the details. One of them is a limited number
Yep.
piece, a limit of 100 pieces, and the other one is a timed edition, so that folks who order within the first week have a chance to reserve one of these, and after that, that's it.
Very cool. And what we're talking about, just so everyone can see, we are talking about the Belloq ceremonial staff, which it looks fantastic, Tom. I
Thank you.
will say. I mean, everybody knows that you guys do great work, but I when I saw the pics for when Jason sent me the pics for this, I wasn't expecting this. Obviously, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And then when I saw this, I was like, damn, like that's cool. That really looks great. It really does.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
impressive.
It's one of these things where yeah, only us, right?
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
you're not getting this anywhere else. And
Right.
that to me, I keep kind of coming back to that with almost everything we do. It's like,
Mhm.
well, it's that the stuff that we're pulling out of the archives and giving people a chance to bring into their collections, they're not getting any other place. And on a lot of them, and this is really 100% one of those, um we are seeing this stuff look, we don't go into the archives looking at this stuff as complete noobs.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
we're going in, we know what we're going to see each time, we have picked the stuff out ahead of time, we have researched the heck out of everything that they've got,
Mhm.
so we know
Yep.
what we're looking for. We've seen all the books, we've seen all the movies, we've seen all the behind the scenes. We're steeped in this stuff for decades, in all of this behind the scenesness.
Yep.
And there's a lot of times where there's props that are on your radar, but they're not like, oh, well, we have to make that right
Sure.
away, and this was one of those pieces where we had it and we had them pull it for us to research, and we knew we were going to see it. And as soon as we saw it, we were like, oh, okay, no, we have to make this right now. Like, this is getting like pushed way ahead of a bunch of other stuff. And it became one of these ones that and so much of that is just down to, I mean, one, the cool factor when you hold it in your hands, it's 60 inches long, it's 5 feet long.
Yep.
Mm,
um and
mm.
it just
Let me
feels
check it
amazing,
out.
and it's got the chrominess, it's distressed, it has that sort of like ivory handle thing going on there. It's from Belloq moments before his head explodes.
Yeah, yeah.
A
um
pivotal scene too, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's yeah, this is not, the MacGuffin of the movie. This is not the Holy Grail. Um, but it's an important prop, and it's an
Mhm.
overlooked prop. And to us, it's like, you know, you have so many indie fans who for decades have been filling their collections with whatever they could get their hands on, whether that
Sure.
was stuff Disney put out or fans or whatever.
Mhm.
And indie fans in particular, go deep into the weeds on this stuff. People are replicating the little tchotchkes on Indy's desk and stuff like that, and every possible artifact and thing, and the Zippo lighters and
Mhm.
everything. And this is one of those pieces that we had never seen done, and that we felt like, okay, here we have it. Literally, the real hero prop is in our hands. And we are in this unique situation where we can laser scan this thing and give people the closest thing you could possibly get to walking into the archives, grabbing it, putting it awkwardly in your coat, and trying to sneak out. And
Which
notice
which
I
is
say
amazing, right? Because
trying.
normally, like, so many techniques today that I use, like photogrammetry, and and
Mhm.
they get the details, pretty well, down to smallest detail. But when you're scrutinizing it and having the real thing and having access to that, you're gonna see parts of it that otherwise you wouldn't see.
Yeah.
Like you said, all the behind the scenes research and then physically having it in hand. Um, I'm not a I'm a fan of the movies, but I'm not a huge collector or fan of the indie stuff.
Mhm.
But this piece, like Matt had said earlier, when you first sent the images over, I kind of did a double take and I was staring at it and I was kind of
Right.
like, zooming in and I'm like, man, this thing is exquisite. Like, what a
Yeah, it
Thank
beautiful
really
you.
is.
piece. And I
Mhm.
really, really like the overall, uh, how should I say, like the element in which it displays, where
Yeah.
you have that hook. It just has, and you know me, Tom, I love that museum vibe.
Yeah.
I'm big on
Thanks.
that. And this has just that, which
Yeah.
I absolutely love. I mean,
Well,
this one is 10/10.
And Tom, you've gotten a
Thank
little
you.
bit of practice with the gaffy stick, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I was actually really happy with the price we were able to get to this.
Mhm.
Look, I know this is not a low cost item that's out there for every collector in the world.
Sure.
And one of the reasons we're offering this two ways. One is the entire staff with the signature edition, the wall hanger, etc. And then the other is and that's 100 pieces. And then we have a numbered edition of just the head available for a full week. There's the numbered edition
Mhm.
version. You get the plaque, you get the top of the staff, the head of the staff, and that wood base.
Yep.
And uh, that gives at least the mere mortals
Sure.
another crack at this, and the full week to get it. It's not super limited. It gives folks a chance. The price on these is going to keep these very limited, though. Like I think about like the Nurhachi and the way these things are selling in auction for
Mhm.
tons of money compared to what we sold it for.
Right.
And that was a run of 150 pieces. This is something where I think we're going to look back on. I have a feeling the head, it's that's a bonus for us, that putting that other one out for the fans, where it's like, okay, we
Right.
know not everybody's going to be able to get this one of 100 pieces on the deluxe edition, so let's give them one other chance. And if 50 people take advantage of that head, okay, great. If
Yep.
100 people, all right, we'll make 100. But I have a feeling it's not going to be a ton of people, and then 2 years from now, people are going to look back on this and go like, "Oh, why the heck didn't I grab that?"
Yeah, they're
Like
gonna be
Oh,
this,
kicking
100%.
this
themselves.
I
thing's
mean,
going for so much now.
you could
Also
be
for displayability purposes, right? Like, the head
right,
alone
correct.
gives a
Mhm.
little bit more, it's more advantageous for those who have limited space but still
Yes.
want a piece like this.
That's what I
Yeah.
was gonna mention, Jason, is you could be surprised because I mean, some people just don't have the space, right?
Yeah.
Like they
And
don't know
and a
where to
5
put
foot
them.
long piece is no joke.
Right, right.
Mm,
I
yeah.
do
Getting
though
a gaffy stick, it's tough to display.
I will say though, Tom, I like that this displays vertically
Thank you. Yep.
Yes.
because I was saying that I've been saying that about the gaffy stick too, that if you
Yeah.
can display it vertically, it saves you some space.
Yeah.
And you could still get this and display it horizontally if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Yeah, get a couple
Um,
curtain rods or something like
sure,
that.
right. But it is nice though. It's nice that you have where is it here? Let me see it.
Oh,
Is
yeah, and even with the deluxe signature edition, you have the option to display just the head, because I
right,
know
which
some
is
people are gonna want the signature but won't have the space to display the whole thing, so
right.
we give you
Mm.
the second base as well. If you're
As
getting that
an
deluxe
option.
edition, you have your 2 choices on
So
how
you
you
get the
display
best of
things.
both worlds if you're able to take advantage of them. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah,
that's
people who are,
fantastic.
people who are ponying up and putting the money down for the deluxe edition, we don't want them to feel shortchanged.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
thought, let's give them all options. And that display hanger, I really appreciate the kudos on that.
It's nice.
I agonized over figuring out the best way to do this, and there's multiple factors to that. It's not
Mhm.
just like, okay, how can we do this in a way that it displays nicely, looks good, is strong enough to support this thing, because it weighs a ton. That head is super heavy and
Mhm.
solid. The shaft itself has two sections of steel running through it for reinforcement, so it
Jeez.
doesn't get wobbly. It's it's a no joke piece. Um, but the other thing is you have to have a display that is repeatable, and something that is not
Mm.
going to cost, add hundreds of dollars to the cost on this stuff,
Right, yeah.
and things like that. I think would surprise people how quickly costs can add up on a
Of
piece like
course,
that.
yeah.
But what we hit on really is, it's very simple. It takes advantage of the sort of hourglass shape of the quote ivory section. It's
Mhm.
actually resin on ours, but and it's resin on the real one. Polyester resin on the real one,
Mhm.
polyurethane on ours for a little
Okay.
more durability, less brittleness. Um, but it takes advantage of that. It has a nice curved shape on the inside of the inset. It slides in, drops, and locks in. It's super quick to put on the wall with just two screws.
Mhm.
And really important to me, those two screws are vertical, so you can hit both screws into the same beam, and you don't have to worry about
Yeah, so you don't have to
anything else.
you don't have to
We
figure out how
actually
to.
just changed on our life size or the screen size, the giant wampas we did. We were initially going to do those with a French cleat like we do on the Tauntauns.
Mhm, yep.
But what ends up happening is you have two screws that are 10 inches apart on either side. You can only hit a beam with one. You got to get a molly or something for the other.
Mhm.
So we switched it for a single hook and a D ring in the center. And you got two screws going into a single beam. It makes it so
Smart.
much easier.
Yeah, it's smart.
And we're trying to think ahead. Like, we're
Well,
collectors. We know.
and of course, and Tom, I love this. I love that the signature has a wood frame.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Um,
they're
I mean,
different.
it's just little touches like that make it more Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
right? Than
Yeah.
let's say Star Wars or whatever
Yeah.
else, right?
I like that
Um,
it looks like it's part of an exhibit.
it's
You
cool.
look like
Thank you.
you won't you
It's
like
smart.
you like you walked into, when they did the Lucas tour exhibit,
Mhm.
and you just take the again, when you talk about, like, bringing the archives into your collection, it's like taking something right out of the archives or right out of the exhibit off the
Mhm.
wall and into your collection.
Love it.
Um,
A
and I
Thank you.
couple
think people do take for granted, they focus so much on the piece, but don't realize how much time, effort, energy, and logistics
mm,
go into the displayability of the piece or being able to protect the piece, right? With displaying it
Yeah.
correctly,
sure.
balancing the weight, overall things like that. Yeah, this one is quite
A
amazing for
banger, yeah.
sure.
Thank you.
A couple questions, Tom.
Yeah.
Um, the head looks
Yeah.
really good, and
Thank you.
it's like it's got that gold luster, that gold shine to it.
Yeah.
I wanna know how you made that because, like, listen, we know, like, C-3PO, right?
Yeah.
I knew it was
C-3
coming.
well, I'm just saying C-3PO is hard
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it's hard to make that last a long time without it peeling, without it,
Right.
like, having issues.
Yeah.
We just know that that's really hard. So what did you guys do for this
So
to make it
so
look so
yeah,
good?
there's a number of different approaches you can take. We went with vac metalizing on this.
Okay.
It's more durable than it's actually also much more chromy than a lot of the spray chrome systems. And it gives you with a lot of the spray chrome things, there are a few different passes on that too. There's one that uses like this like kind of the silvering chemicals like you'd find in
Mhm.
a mirror, and then there's others that are layers of silver and black paint with high gloss and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, none of those ever really get you that true plated look, though.
Right.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
the original on this has that. What's interesting is the two examples that are known to exist at this point have both faded from gold to silver over time, which is actually really unusual. And the metalizing that we use, it's intentionally it should hold up much better long term, and it'll also where you have like those ones with the silvering chemicals, when if there's ever a chip in the clear coat or there's ever any abrasion where you get under it, you can start to blacken and turn colors and things like that, and we wanted to avoid that. um you
It's
know
it looks really, really good, and it not only does it look good, it looks like it's weathered on as
It
well.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard to capture the weathering in pictures.
Mhm.
When you see it in person, it's got passes of matting agents and some brown tones and stuff like that that get in the grooves, and it just feels more real. It's weird,
Mhm.
even chromed, even shiny and gold, and everything you would think metallic is,
Yeah.
once you put some schmutz on it, like once you give it some age, it feels that much more real. It's really a strange thing.
Is the bottom the same? The
The
same
bottom
pattern?
is also chromed. Yeah, it's the
Okay,
same thing. Yeah, so
okay.
the bottom and the top both get metallized. The central section is ivory
Beautiful.
tone with passes. It's got two different colors of distressing on it. The distressing on the shaft is very subtle. In some of the close-ups, you'll probably see it. It's mostly focused around each ridge. And again, we're just matching what they did on the original with
Right,
that.
it's beautiful. It
Tom,
really
if
is.
you don't mind me asking, I know
Yeah.
most pieces are done in-house, but
Yeah.
personally, vac metallization is quite the process. Is that
Yes.
something that you had to send off-site, or is that something you
Yes.
guys worked? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, when you're dealing with the heads on these things, which are, oh gosh, they're like 8 or 9 pounds. I have to look at what it's either 6 or 8 pounds of resin on each head alone. You've got to get these things cast, cleaned up as beautifully as you can,
Yeah, and
cleared,
those surfaces have to be
packed,
slick.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then shipped to, the plating company, then that gets done and then it comes back to you. It really is, it's quite a bit of behind the scenesness that happens to this stuff, that
A
I
lot of
think.
QC processes too, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I can
absolutely.
imagine.
Yeah, it is challenging. But the weathering is something that I think, um helps this piece as well, because the
Mm,
original, it's funny, we've looked at things, obviously the gold idol and stuff like that, and all the
Mhm.
C3PO costumes and some of the other droids, and it's the thing we always say when we look at them is like, if we ever sent this to a collector, they'd hang us out to dry.
Mm.
They'd just be like, "Oh, this is the worst plating I've ever seen in my life." The idol in particular in the archives, the hero idol. Granted, it was replated over time, but even on vintage photos, you can see like this
Yeah.
is not,
Yeah.
complete perfection. And there's something about, like I said, there's something about that weathering pass. There's something about those
Mm.
subtle imperfections that actually bring something out in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, a ton of work goes into just making sure each of those heads is as clean as we can make it before it goes out for plating. Because yeah, any imperfection on there is just going to be magnified.
Interesting.
you
And Tom,
mentioned
CC,
the
you had a something. I'm sorry. You had a question about the signature, didn't you? Real quick, just
yeah, that and so was there what was the decision as far as getting the actor's signature as opposed to the sculptor's? Was it like a
So
logistical challenge?
a little bit, honestly, some of these things we didn't know the sculptor of,
mm,
out of the gate, and the the other thing is, you, we're trying to find people that, fans are going to want to bring into their
totally.
collections
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
And we've been lucky with the maquette line where we've been able to like, um, hit on a number of people that people already knew, but then bring out a few people that maybe people didn't know, and sort of balance that line out. And honestly, I love the way people have welcomed, Judy Elkins
Mm.
and Jeannie Lauren and some of the others that maybe didn't have as much of a name. Even Dave Carson, who's someone who did so much, but really wasn't as well known as, Phil Tippett or Ken Ralston or Chris Wayless. But for the first indie signature edition piece, we felt like we had to get someone people knew, and the we're not always permitted to bring the actors in on this stuff,
Mm,
and when we had that chance with this, we said, okay, well, we got to take advantage of that. And we happened to have worked with Paul Freeman's agent on another signing recently. And so that really, it just all fell together pretty nicely that way.
okay,
That's amazing.
cool.
And yeah,
Yeah,
if we didn't say it before, it is signed by Paul Freeman, who played Belloq for the film. So
and seeing as Paul probably gets one of these, I can imagine him at home recreating the scene, and
that would be great.
as we
Yeah.
as we all do, yeah.
Did
And then his head explodes.
Mhm.
um Tom, is just real quick, is the Indiana Jones licensing as difficult as the Star Wars licensing? Is it all
Yeah, I mean, the hurdles come from the parent company and not the
sure?
particular license. So I would imagine maybe there's some difference in some of them. But with Indy and Star Wars both being Lucasfilm, we know the product development side of this really well, and
Right.
that goes relatively smoothly. And we've got,
Yeah.
I've said this often, we've got a really great partner with Lucasfilm in the
Yeah.
product development side, and those brainstorm sessions are so great. And then it's just on the contract side. That's the contract side
Of
on this
course.
stuff. The
Of
the
course.
stuff that comes with it just kind of goes with all of this. And yeah, Indian and Star Wars have a lot of the same parameters, and
Yeah,
it's
I
all the
imagine.
same hurdles.
Well, listen, I want to show something real quick. We kind of looked around and found this little interesting
Oh,
thing. This is the prop store auction. Is this happening soon? Do
yeah, I
you
want to say
know?
like
And this is the
the
upcoming one. This is
yes
the
the
upcoming auction.
oh the 14th. There
Yeah,
you go.
this is
So a
coming
few
up.
days after ours goes up for sale. So if you want to wait, you could try and get this one instead.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, for a ridiculous amount of money. But
well,
how cool though that you're bringing this to collectors, that they can actually afford you know, something like this is really,
It's funny.
really
We
cool.
were aware of this one. This was in the collection of Howard Kazanjian, the producer from the film, and it was something where we knew it was out there, but we didn't know it was going to be coming to auction. We definitely didn't know it was going to be coming to auction at the same exact time we put ours up. I
Right.
thought that was really like, oh, okay, that's some timing right there.
Now they have to
Um,
load the reserve because all the bids,
that's
all the
right. Yeah,
bidders
yeah.
like, I'm just gonna grab the Regal version.
Well, it is funny. I mean, when it comes to the screen use stuff, the it's there's a lot of people that worry that good replicas hurt the value of screen used pieces.
Yeah.
When
Mhm.
you have
Mm.
something like this where there's literally one in
Right.
private hands and it's with the producer of the film, and the other one that seems to match up to the film is the one, the hero one in the archives, um, you have to think, you know, the person that is going to shell out 120,000 pounds for this probably isn't even interested in a replica. You
Right.
know,
Sure.
No, no.
Yeah.
it's like, and the person who is interested in the replica is not going to shell out 120,000 pounds for this. So they really
Mhm.
can exist in these parallel worlds, which is nice. But I do think it's
Mm.
I feel like, you know, this, I probably should save the link to this so that if anybody gives us guff about our pricing, I can just be like, here, just get this one instead. Good luck.
Exactly right. Well, and it's interesting what you said about the gold kind of
Yeah.
fading over time, right? That's you kind of see that in this where it's just a little bit silvery and still
Yeah.
looks really great. It's
The
just
picture where they showed the end piece, you can see some of that discoloration I talked about underneath.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they showed a close up of what's left of the end of that one.
oh, did
Yeah, I
they?
saw
Um,
the with a little break, and you can see the build up process of how they originally
Let me
painted
see
it.
if I can find that. Are you talking about this?
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
there you go. You can see the darkening there where, you know, air
Mhm.
got underneath the clear coat and
Yep.
started to discolor stuff. So that was something we really wanted to avoid with ours. One of the reasons we chose vac metallizing over doing the more silvering process.
Interesting. Okay.
And I might be wrong. And if I am, we could just edit this, as I
Yeah.
said earlier when we were talking to Matt. But I was trying to do my homework because I love Indiana Jones. I have the single stone that you guys did
Oh,
because
cool.
it was also featured in Andor, so I figured it was best of both worlds.
Oh, nice.
Um,
I didn't even think of that. We should have advertised that as an Andor prop.
I
Yeah.
was trying. I was using all the Star Wars groups like, hey, listen, it's technically an Andor prop.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that the same sculptor who did this also did the fertility idol, the Ark,
Yeah.
the Batmobile from '89,
Oh gosh.
Batman, like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Fifth Element, like
Oh,
so.
cool.
I kind of like that it also has kind of that touch and lineage to other
Mm.
really iconic props,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that's a huge selling point for me as well.
That's excellent. Yeah, yeah. There's that kind of crossover is all over the place on these props. You know, um, I mean, people don't even realize when we start when we're doing those maquettes and things like that. You got some people who are picking up a Ken Ralston edition because of Klaatu. You know, not
Mm.
realizing like, no, that guy's got 5 Oscars. You know, for
Yeah.
other stuff.
Jeez.
like, you know, it's just crazy. I talk to these guys and constantly they'll be bringing up stuff to me that I never even knew. I'm not name dropping, but I talk with John Berg pretty often. He's someone out of all of those guys that I've known uh, well over a decade now, and we're buddies. And
Mm.
he's this great guy. And he mentioned something to me that I didn't even realize he had spent like a year working on a stop motion project for Atari when they were doing was it Altered Beasts,
It
the
would have been
video game.
Sega, right?
Mm.
Oh,
Um,
through Atari releasing Altered Beast.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so he was working on the animation that they then digitized to make, you know, these creatures move and stuff in the game. And I'm just like, man, that game was mind blowing when it
That
came
game was
out.
ahead. I was gonna say it was ahead of its time. It was such a big deal.
Yeah,
Like Altered
yeah,
Beast was such a big deal. Yeah.
it really, it was one of these things where you just kind of go like, you know, well, what didn't you guys work on? You know, like,
True.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually cool. Really cool, CC. Just
yeah.
all the extra things that sculptor did. That's cool. I honestly, Tom, this is fantastic. Like,
Thank
you
you.
guys should be very proud of this.
Thank
And
you so much.
it's cool that it's just cool to see more come out in the Indiana Jones
Yeah.
line. I'm sure. Listen, if you're an Indiana Jones collector, you have to be just beside yourself that Regal Robot is doing products now like
Thank you.
this because, like you said, they were. I'm sure a lot of people were having to scrap and find things and even find makers other places just to get things to display. And it's nice to have proper prop replicas being made of these pieces. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that lineage aspect to it,
it's
it's
huge.
like to be able to sit there and say like, oh, well, the person that made this held the real one in their hands.
Absolutely.
They 3D laser scanned this. They,
Yep.
agonized over the details to make sure they got this right. And, you know, they're not just some big faceless company
Right.
making thousands of pieces and
Right.
not caring about how they look or anything like that. We will have long philosophical conversations at work about things like how something should be presented, how
Mm,
whether or not a particular detail is something we need to include, or if that happened after the fact, or
mm,
things like that, or if there's who to put on the display, the plaque that comes with it,
right.
how many edition pieces are going to go, like all of these are things that we go so deep on and try to make sure that we're getting everything we can as
Well, and
right
it's
as possible.
yeah, and Tom, it's nice to see. I don't feel like there's a lot of like lineage products for different things. I mean,
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a lot of
A
like
lot of
collect.
companies don't feel the need for it. They're
No,
just,
they
well, we'll just
don't.
digitally sculpt our own and
And
close
and
enough.
and to be fair, not everybody keeps not everybody has kept things like
True.
Lucasfilm has kept things to be able to do the lineage type of
Yeah.
stuff that you can do now. So it's really valuable. That lineage side of things, I don't know if some collectors just don't realize how valuable that is.
It's
It's
something we
so
talk about
valuable.
so often. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but I think a lot of people when they think of Lucas Archives think A New Hope onward. But I think it
Yeah.
was Indiana Jones going into ESB that actually started them cataloging and documenting and basically creating the archives, if you will, right? Or getting in
I
that
mean,
direction.
it's definitely what put them in the direction. Yeah, because A New Hope, most of the stuff didn't stay in the
Yeah,
archives.
it
Right.
was kind of
Almost
dispersed and
everything got returned to, if it was rental, it went back to the rental houses.
Mhm.
If it was custom made, a lot of it got destroyed.
repurposed or yeah,
Or yeah,
destroyed.
exactly, reused, or somebody pulled it out of a dumpster, thankfully, and 40 years later, it turns up at prop store. Um, but yeah, by Raiders, you could see they were starting to hold on to stuff. Certainly by Empire as well,
Mm,
and in particular, though, um, it's the stuff that ILM made. It's
mm.
things that they did in house that they wanted to keep after the fact. All of the models they held on to from the first movie, but a lot of the other stuff just went. So yeah, definitely there's a hint of it from A New Hope, and that's mostly the models. And then after that point, they really did start to archive stuff. They weren't as um I'm trying to think of the right word for it here. They weren't precious about it though. They were
Mm,
saving it because they thought they might need it. And a great example of that
mm.
is they saved the Rebel Hoth costumes from Empire Strikes Back. Almost all of them. And when you go into the archives, there's almost none of them because they were repainted in camo to be used in Return of the Jedi as the
Oh,
commando outfits that then they didn't even end up using. They went with something
Interesting.
else. And so there's a bunch of them in there, a bunch of the vests and things from the Hoth gear that are painted camo. And it's just like
That's
we
funny.
sit there and like, oh God, how could they do that?
Yeah.
Just make
Yeah.
a new
but at
one.
the time, it was just,
Yeah,
resource and
absolutely.
practicality and
Well, it's
Yeah,
yeah,
money.
and it was George's own
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
so he
yeah.
wasn't gonna spend it
Well,
on
also plus
new
how some of the
costumes if he
props
didn't have to.
also somehow some of the props they made then, like if you look at the Ion Cannon, which I'm sure you saw in person, the baking soda and all the materials that they used at the time basically corroded and ate through the models.
Yeah.
Mm.
So again, they were thinking more resource,
Oh, yeah.
reusability, practicability. But it's great to know that a decent portion of this stuff has survived enough
There's
for the details to be scrutinized
Tom,
and looked over.
does
Yeah.
does the
We're
Indiana
very
Jones
lucky.
does the Indiana Jones stuff in the archives, does that live right next to Star Wars? Is it
Yeah,
different?
it's like
It's
literally.
next
I
to the
mean, it's
Howard the
like
Duck
where
section. No, I'm kidding.
it's where it lives in my brain, right next to
Yeah,
Star Wars.
yeah, yeah.
And by the way, Jason, Indiana Jones at the moment is right next to Howard the Duck in the archives
That's funny.
as well as like there's some Willow stuff and things
Oh,
like
that's
that
cool.
in a
Yeah.
similar kind of area. But things have been moving around a little bit as they've been organizing, as they've been recataloging, repacking things for the museum
For the
and stuff like
museum,
that,
yeah.
and trying to
Mm.
work out what the future looks like. But um, to yeah, it's funny, the indie stuff right now, it's a place we visit a lot, that particular area, because on one side is this 8 foot by 4 foot deep section of the Return of the Jedi maquettes, which we love.
Oh yeah.
And then directly across from that is this, trying to think, is that the same row? It might be one over, but the indie stuff is like in that same area, just one over. And
So what I'm hearing is, in order to have our collections look the most accurately towards the archives, we need to
right.
buy this staff to put next to
Indiana
the
Jones stuff.
next to all the maquettes. Yeah, on the other, just get a shelf across the
Yeah.
way. I like the way you're thinking. This is
Yeah,
exactly what
good.
people need to do.
That's good.
Also, we're going to open up the Regal Shelving Company so that we can sell the exact shelves from the
Just
archives.
giant shelves that you can buy.
Yeah, those
Jeez.
industrial
Yeah.
metal with the wood
Those stain
planks.
tags.
Tom,
Yeah.
is the museum going to affect how you guys can?
Remains to be seen. The idea is that with the license comes the ability to ask permission
Sure.
to see the stuff, and how that looks once it's in the museum, how that looks. I would imagine if something is on display in the museum,
Right.
that's not going to be a piece that a
But they're
license
gonna-
can get their hands on
temporarily-
until they do a rotation.
They're going to rotate, right?
But they'll
Right?
still
because-
be, I think, even better archived and cataloged once it's in the museum's possession.
I mean, yeah,
at
it's
the-
been a long
think so.
project for them. This goes back more than 10 years, more than certainly longer than I've been going there, which is maybe 12 or 13 years now. But even then, at the time, Alina, who was there, was doing a ton of cataloging, and they were doing a lot of opening up boxes that had never been opened before and things like that. What's amazing to me is that all these years later, with all this effort put in by so many people, there are still boxes that you'll open up and they'll go, that's not in the system. What do you got in there?
Crazy.
And I'll tell you, we've found some incredible things in boxes like that. So anytime we see something where we're like, do you know what's in that box? And if they say no, we're like, we'll open it. Let's see what's in there.
That's crazy. Well, honestly, Tom, good luck. I hope a lot of Indiana Jones collectors get their hands on this. It's really, really a beautiful piece. And do you have an idea of the price? Did you mention the price? at all,
Yeah,
or-
I don't know if I did. So it's $17.99
Okay.
for the deluxe full staff signature edition wall hanger and just the head display as well. And then $8.99 for the head only.
Okay.
And both of those are have an available 12-month payment plan on it.
Yeah,
so it's
sure.
a nice way to really
Also,
break
those
that
are
up.
both really, really reasonably priced.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I was just happy that we could get it. Our goal was to make it less than the Roger Christian Gaffy stick.
Mhm.
And honestly, work-wise for us, it's actually a little bit more. So I was
Seems like it,
impressed
yeah.
that we managed to get that price under, because that was $19.99. So to have this $200 less, to me, felt like a good place for it. And hopefully, 100 collectors will agree with me and bring them home.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, if anybody's gonna grab this, obviously it's gonna be on Regal Robot's site. You said when's the date it goes?
It goes live on November 12th.
Okay.
And in the meantime, go to regalrobot.com, hit the news button, and it'll be probably the top news entry if you're going over there this week.
Yep.
And you can get all the rest of the details, see some more pictures, zoom in, get to see them up close.
Perfect. And if you're watching this much later, you're gonna have to find this thing on the secondary
Right.
market
Yeah.
for however
Or
much.
bid on the one in
Or
prop
you
store.
can bid on
Exactly.
the
Good luck,
you can bid on the
you know?
one in auction.
In the
Good.
corner first, and then go try to
Yeah.
find it on the
Good
open
luck.
market.
That's right.
Sell
Yeah.
some plasma, and you can get the other one. Very cool. Well, thank you, Tom, and thanks everybody. We'll see how this. It's always fascinating to see how long it takes
Yeah,
if
you never know, man.
if it
It's
goes super fast or what, but it's
yeah.
really I love it.
It'll be interesting. We've tried to avoid the numbered edition, or rather the full limited like we did with the
Sure.
Nurhachi. We've tried to do these timed editions for everything, but this having to have the signatures, something we had to have ahead of time. We picked a number 100. We said that feels like about
Mhm.
the right number for this sort of level of piece. And if it goes up and it sells out in a week, great. If it goes up, sells out in 6 months, we're fine with that too. We're going
Yeah,
to be
for sure.
making them over the course of a year, so
Of course.
but it'll be interesting to see. I can never predict this stuff. PJ always gets mad at me because he's like, I'll say something's going to last 2 weeks. He's like, it's going to last 15 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Well,
we'll
you
see.
never
But
know.
the head only we know will last a week because it is a timed edition,
Timed
so
edition,
folks will
yeah.
have 1 week to grab it. If you reserve it, you get it. If not, then prop store it is.
Killer, killer. All right, well, that's it, guys. The Belloq's. What's the full name of this? The Belloq's
Belloq's ceremonial staff, and
prop
then prop
prop replica.
replica,
Yeah,
signature edition, and head only.
and
I
head
guess
only.
we'll call it. I don't know.
All right, guys, go check it out. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.